So if you're watching this video, you've either been in a slump or you currently are in a scoring slump or some kind of mental slump right now. If you feel like you're getting stuck, we're going to break down the 3 core things that I have all of my clients go through that allow them to get to the next level and break through that scoring slump and really break through that block that they have in their game. It's something that I see with every player, and once you get through it, it is a dramatic shift in your game. So last week we talked about the scientific method, and really what the scientific method comes down to is having a clear hypothesis, then understanding that you have to go out and test it, then you take those tests and actually analyze the results, and then you create a new hypothesis based on those results. And you keep this cycle going and it becomes a spiral up. That is the key. If you want to become the best player you can be, that's what it takes. That's also what the best players in the world do. They understand that the scientific method allows them to actually gain control over something that usually isn't in your control, which is actually having a clear development path forward. Now, the common solution typically is players just want to attack the whole game. So they just say, well, I just want to work on everything. Why not just work on my whole game? That would solve everything. If I just work on my game, I'll just get better. Well, of course you want to work on your whole game over time, but you can only do so much at a short period of time or during a short period. So if you want to improve quickly, it's about doing the most effective things at the current time and continually doing that over time. And what you'll find is eventually you do improve pretty much your whole game, but you work on certain things more than others because that's just the way things go. You have to understand that you're sometimes going to be focused on growth in skating while you allow your stick handling to not be the core focus, because you can only have one main focus and the other ones naturally have to receive a little less attention. And now typically most hockey practices or general like skills training is going to cover the basics of all the areas of your game. So then when you have those other extra times or work with a specific training coach, it's about attacking these 3 core areas, but really 2 core areas. And we'll break down what I mean. And it's more of a strategy as opposed to simply just saying, okay, well, we're just going to work on toe drags, or we're just going to work on a certain type of shooting release or just a certain skating movement. It's deeper than that. It's about understanding your own individual needs and attacking the magic 3. And really what the magic 3 come down to, and the reason this is about breaking out of a slump, is because when you're in a slump, naturally what we want to do is just like throw a million things at the wall. And I used to do this all the time. I would throw things at the wall and I'd try it for a week, and if it didn't work, I'd stop. So the big solution here is, instead of just trying something for a week and then throwing it away, when you do research, you want to look at, well, what are the things that are working for players who are in a similar position to me, who have a similar style, who have went through a similar path at a similar level? What did they work on? If you can get film, if you can get information from them or people who've worked with them, that's going to help you understand, okay, these are the kind of more likely tactics to work on. The key is you want to make sure that you work on it, instead of for 7 days, work on it for like 30 days. I recommend having a hypothesis with your mind, with your body, and with your skills. So when I say mind, I mean work on something in your mental game. It could be meditation, visualization, mental programming, mindset, hockey IQ. Pick something, create a hypothesis in that area. For example, it could be, I want to work on focus, so I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes every single day. See how that's a hypothesis you can now test for 30 days, and I guarantee you your focus will improve. And that's a hypothesis you can test, get information about, actually get some results, and then apply it to something else after. If you do that over the course of a 12-month period and you work on 12 things and get significantly better over those 12 hypotheses that you actually have, you will be so much better when you come out of this. It's crazy. It's insane what you see when you actually really look at what happens when somebody takes these longer periods of time to test something, right? So you try that out. You do that. Then you focus on these 3 core areas. And I call them the magic 3 because they feel like magic when you really get them to click really quickly. You can see a dramatic change in 30 days if you really take these seriously. So here's the strategy I would approach this with. So number 1, the first thing I would do is I would focus on improving your presence and focusing ability. The reason this is so valuable is because naturally what we want to do is jump to just purely the actions we're taking. But if we don't have the ability to be present to what we're doing, then it doesn't matter what we try to do in a game, because our focus is waning, I think is the correct word. You're not able to be centered. You're not able to be aware of what's going on. Your attention goes to all different places, and you're not going to perform at your best. So you have to dial in your focus first, and it will make a massive difference and has a ripple effect on every single part of your game. Sometimes that's all it takes, that one thing, meditating for 30 straight days, 10 minutes, and suddenly you come out of that and you're like, whoa, I genuinely never realized how little I had control over my emotions. I couldn't control anything that I thought, anything that I felt, any ways that I acted, and it was crushing my performance. So you fix that. The best way to do that, again, is just take that 30-day challenge. Right, then we get into the next step, which is going to be understanding your separator skills. And your separator skills are really your strengths. They're the things that you're the best at. Now, most people think, well, I'll just focus on like all the areas of my game and it'll all round out and I'll be a great player overall. But that's not the case for the best players in the world. The best players in the world understand what they're best at. They center their attention on those things and they take advantage of their strengths. If you want to be great, you have to realize you're not going to be absolutely world-class at every single thing, but you can be world-class at 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 things over time. But if you focus on one and really emphasize building it up with maybe 1 or 2 supporting pillars, so we call these pillar skills, and you have the main pillar, then you have 2 supporting pillar skills that oftentimes supplement that main pillar, watch what happens to your game. And you can do this in season. Take 30 days, take the next month, and just emphasize one core area of your game. Maybe it's zone entries, maybe it's zone exits with possession, maybe it's making really good passes on 2-on-1s, maybe it's finishing off the rush, maybe it's one-timers, maybe it's coming out of the corners and scoring. But if you get really good at one thing, and then you can increase the frequency and the rate of success in that area, so the frequency of time you get into that situation and the rate of success in that situation, that is going to increase your statistics massively, because that's something that you can rely upon consistently over the course of a 5-10 game span within a month and see massive results by the end. And now you can take that and run with it. So that's why separator skills and pillar skills are so important. And now the third one that I would get into is bottlenecks. And so when I say bottlenecks, what I mean is the weak points that are limiting your skill. So when you pour water out of a bottle, the reason it goes out slower is because there is a neck on it that bottlenecks it, right? It limits the amount of flow that can go through it. So weaknesses are like bottlenecks because they limit the flow of your skills. They limit your ability to perform at your best. So if you want to be great, if you want to be the best you can be, right? Notice how that question comes up. Then you have to also take this third thing and approach it with detail. You want to get feedback on what does my coach think my kind of bottlenecks are? What do the people on my team think? What do scouts think? If you can talk to the scouts, it's awesome because they can give you clear feedback from an outside perspective. What does your agent think? What does your development coach think, right? Like that's when my players come to me and say, hey, Corson, like what do you think in terms of my weak points? We'll watch film, we'll start to understand, okay, I'm starting to see. Sometimes players have these little bottlenecks. It doesn't mean you suck at something. If you're a high-level player, if you're like a junior A, college pro player, and you're like doing well, but you're just like not quite getting things to click, it's probably a bottleneck that's limiting you. Because a bottleneck doesn't just stop like suddenly. You don't just like hit a point and all of a sudden like you have no limitations. There's always something bottlenecking your skill because as everything rises, something else slides to the back and is holding you back because it's just last place, right? If you have 10 people racing, somebody has to be in last. And whatever that is, you're trying to find that, identify, and pull it up into the pack so that it's not holding you back. And you just keep searching and hunting those things down in your game. So that's the approach I would take. Is identify those weak links, those bottlenecks, and I would relentlessly attack them. I would be reflecting on them consistently. I'd be watching my film, and then I'd be trying to identify what is it that I can do to reduce these. And then I'd constantly search again and think, well, is there anything that maybe if I just sorted it out and just got it a little more dialed in, it would make a huge, huge difference for my game. A lot of times what I like to look at for like true bottlenecks for players is it's often skating patterns. So there's certain techniques that they're missing. Like for example, one of my guys it was cutbacks that he was struggling with, and it wasn't that he can't do them like skating wise, but he wasn't able to understand how to enter into the skill and exit out of the skill. So that's an example. You may have a bottleneck that you don't actually use your true skating ability and you don't drive the net. So it's more of like a mindset and a decision-making bottleneck, or an awareness bottleneck, or you don't understand your strengths and weaknesses bottleneck, right? Look for those things, and once you identify them, it will make a huge difference. This is what makes you valuable as a player. This is what separates you from other people, is you identify, okay, I'm focused and I'm always dialed in. I understand my strengths and I leverage them, and I understand what my weak points are and I take advantage and level those up constantly. That's what's going to make you the type of player that your coach can't take off the ice, and it's the type of player that scouts want, because they very clearly see this guy doesn't have many weaknesses and he's always getting better, and he has these core things that make him different from the other players we're looking at. You will be valuable to other people and you will get to the next level if you can really master those. And so take this plan on. What I would recommend is attack these 3 areas with a 90-minute routine every morning. Get up, do a 10-minute meditation, do a 20-minute visualization, then get straight into your separator skills. So work on 30 minutes of your separator skill. You can study the skill, you can work on the skill. It could be on ice, off ice, but whatever it takes to get better at it, 30 minutes of that, and then 30 minutes of your bottleneck skill. Same thing, study film, work on it on ice, off ice, whatever it takes. If you add that into what you're already doing, and add those 3 things in, and then in addition to that, you add in before every practice and after every practice, a focus on working on one pillar, one bottleneck, one of each before, and then one of each after every single practice, you will get so much better. Simple system to implement. I hope you try that out. It will make you better, I promise you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great week and continue to crush it. I'll see you guys at the next level.